I've spent nearly 500 hours with the Bambu Lab H2D now, and honestly, this machine has genuinely changed the way I approach 3D printing. Not because it's just bigger, not because it has two nozzles, and not because this particular one also happens to have a laser attached to it. It's changed the way I print because this is the first time I've used a machine that feels like it's genuinely designed around workflow, practicality, rather than just features. And that's coming from someone who already owns a Bambu Lab X1 Carbon, a P1S, an A1, an A1 Mini, and the H2S. So in this video, I want to give you my honest real-world experience with the H2D as a 3D printer. Not a spec sheet, not a first impression, not a sponsored hype video. I'm going to show you the things I genuinely love about this machine and the few frustrations I've had with it, and why this has very quickly become my main 3D printer. And yes, there is going to be a completely separate video dedicated to the laser functionality later on, because that deserves its own deep dive. So before we jump in properly, Bambu Lab did send this machine out to me free of charge for a review, and there will be affiliate links down below if you do decide to pick one up and want to support the channel. But as always, everything you're hearing in this video is my own genuine opinion after actually using the machine properly. Bambu Lab haven't seen this video, they haven't approved it, and this isn't my first Bambu printer, so I have the experience to give you some good concepts. I already know their ecosystem very well, so I came into this review with pretty high expectations. The very first thing that hit me with the H2D was just the size of the box. It's massive. It only just fit through a standard doorway, and whilst I did move it myself, I absolutely would recommend having a second person help you because this thing is heavy. But once you actually start opening it up, the whole experience feels incredibly premium and incredibly deliberate. The outer shell of the box lifts upwards away from the printer, and immediately you're presented with a fully assembled machine sitting securely inside of a nice foam packaging. There aren't hundreds of loose parts, there isn't loads of confusion, and every single transport screw, bracket, and cable tie is clearly marked with red indicators showing exactly what needs to be removed. Even the AMS2 Pro is securely mounted inside the printer itself with clear labels showing you exactly what to undo. The quick start guide is excellent, it's very simple, very visual, very beginner friendly, and honestly, within under an hour, I had the machine fully set up, updated, and in the middle of a calibration. Now physically, the H2D feels incredibly premium. The silver side panels combined with the black front section give it a really clean industrial look, and the laser version with the green safety panels actually adds a really futuristic look in person. The screen is already attached out of the box. It's bright, it's responsive, and it tilts up and down, which is surprisingly nice quality of life feature. There are anti-vibration feet already installed from factory, carrying handles molded into the base, fully opening door hinges, side windows for visibility, and even thoughtful little improvements like a completely flush floor inside the printer, so cleaning purge waste is much easier. And that's honestly the best way I can describe the machine overall. It's thoughtful, nothing feels random, nothing feels unnecessary, everything feels like it's there for a good reason. Now the real story with the H2D for me is the dual nozzle system, and interestingly, it's not actually because of multicolor printing, it's because of support materials. One of the very first practical prints I did was of my own alignment jigs that normally leaves behind horrible undersides because the support usually fuses aggressively to the print. So this time I printed the main part in PLA and used PETG as a support material. And honestly, the real results completely changed how I looked at dual nozzle printing. The supports peeled off incredibly cleanly, the underside finish was massively improved, and there was almost no effort involved removing them, which for me is a really big improvement. Because the second nozzle already had the PETG loaded, it didn't need to constantly purge huge amounts of filament like a traditional single nozzle setup. That's where this machine starts to click for me, because it just isn't a gimmick, it is a genuinely practical improvement in your daily workflow. From there, I started pushing the machine harder. I printed a pair of running shoes using AMS compatible TPU colors from Bambu Lab, and I used PLA PLA as an interface material. The print took roughly 2 days because of the scale I printed it at, but the results were absolutely fantastic and very clean transitions. I also printed a full-size Stormtrooper helmet using a metallic silk PLA with silver accent sections printed using the second nozzle. That print looked incredible. The surface finish was clean, the supports removed really well, and the overall print quality genuinely impressed me. I also printed a TPU phone case for my S24 Ultra using PLA support interfaces, and again, this was where dual nozzle systems become genuinely useful rather than just interesting. The support quality was excellent, the overhangs came out beautifully, and the amount of wasted material was massively reduced compared to the traditional single nozzle systems. I also swapped over to a 0.2mm nozzle for some really fine detailed prints, and the nozzle changing process itself is surprisingly simple. It's basically a quick release system with a magnetic alignment, so changing nozzles only takes a couple of minutes, and the detailed quality you can get with a 0.2mm nozzle is genuinely impressive, especially for small text and precision parts. I also ran a series of calibration tests just to see how capable the machine actually was mechanically. Bridge performance was impressive, overhangs were clean up to around 70-80 degrees, there was virtually no stringing, and tolerance testing was genuinely excellent. I also found that the calibration cube was exactly 20mm by 20mm, which is what it should have been. Now I also wanted to test the H2D properly with engineering materials, so I printed one of my extra large self-centering jig tops using PA6GF because I wanted something far more heat resistant for laser work. And this is actually where I experienced my first real failure. Initially I used a standard textured build plate with adhesive spray, and the print lifted off during the second layer. Because the print detached, it caught the nozzle cover mechanism and actually bent and snapped the small plastic flap underneath the inactive nozzle. Now thankfully the AI monitoring system detected the issue and paused the print before it caused any serious damage, and Bambu actually includes spare replacement parts in the accessory kit, but it was definitely a reminder that this is still a machine and engineering materials can still be temperamental. I then switched over to smooth plate that Bambu recommends for engineering materials, and I still experienced a bit of warping. So eventually, after researching it, I switched to a CryoGrip Pro Glacier plate, and the print completed successfully with excellent results. And honestly, I actually think including failures like this is important because no machine is magic. But what impressed me was how easy the H2D made recovery and troubleshooting, and the replacement of the part was simple to do. One of the biggest reasons Bambu printers have become so popular is the ecosystem, and after using this machine heavily, I completely understand why. MakerWorld is genuinely useful, being able to find models, send them directly into Bambu Studio, and then directly send them to the printer from either your desktop or your phone is just incredibly convenient and hard to get elsewhere. The app integration is excellent, you can monitor prints remotely, you can adjust speeds, you can skip objects mid-print, receive notifications, watch the cameras remotely, and this is what I mean when I say the H2D changed how I print. It removes friction, the AI systems, the calibration routines, the vibration compensation, the automatic filament detection. Most of the time you don't even notice what they're doing. They're just there quietly doing their job in the background so you can focus on doing the fun stuff, which is 3D printing. The AMS2 Pro is also a really meaningful improvement over the original AMS. The original system could be awkward to work on if filament did snap inside because accessing those PTFE tubes required significant disassembly. This new version is far easier to access and maintain. It also includes built-in filament drying, which works really well and supports automatic profiles when used with Bambu filaments. And overall, the reliability has been excellent personally for me. I've used PLA, PETG, TPU and engineering materials with very few issues. Now, no review is complete without talking about limitations. The first one is the dual nozzle build area restrictions. Because the nozzle sits side by side, each nozzle loses a small access strip on each side of the build plate on the opposite side. You can work around this by loading duplicate materials in both nozzles, but currently that requires duplicated filament setups. Now, Bambu are planning improvements here with their filament switching track system later later on, but right now it is something worth understanding before you buy. The second limitation is the nozzle cover flap mechanism. Whilst I understand why it exists, it is relatively delicate and can break if a print comes loose and collides with it, but this is easily fixable. And finally, whilst the laser version looks fantastic, the green laser safety panels do slightly reduce visibility into the machine compared to the standard clear version. It's absolutely understandable from a safety perspective, but it is noticeable. So after nearly 500 hours of printing, where do I personally stand on the H2D? Honestly, I think this is the best all-round 3D printer I've personally used, not because it's the fastest, not because it has the most features, and not because it's perfect, but because it genuinely feels like a mature, practical, well thought out machine that improves the actual day-to-day experience of 3D printing, which is what it's all about. The dual nozzle system genuinely changed how I approach supports and engineering prints. The ecosystem is excellent, the reliability has been fantastic, and the overall user experience is probably the closest I've seen to a true appliance style 3D printer. Yes, it's a premium price. Yes, there are still minor compromises, but honestly, I found myself barely touching my other printers since getting this one. And I think that says more than any benchmark test ever could. Now, in the next video, we are going to be testing the laser functionality properly, including the 40-watt module, the cutting performance, engraving quality, and whether this machine genuinely works as an all-in-one maker platform. So if you would like to see that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you've got any questions whatsoever about the H2D, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.